Hello, my beautiful friends and seekers out there. This is a topic that I find so fun to explore. Diving deep on the energetics of Virgo, how to work with it, why it is an important energy, and how to move through this particular Virgo season with a sense of purpose and meaning and connection. You know, Virgo to me is such an important energy if we want to understand how to be our truest selves, if we want to get in touch with our inner wise ones, if we are going on a journey where we want to face our deepest shadows and also come out feeling whole and connected to ourselves. And if we want to have a deeper understanding of what it means to be both a spiritual being and doing that through the physical medium of being in a body and living a life here in the physical. So it plays an important role on being a bridge between the hidden and the seen, the conscious and the unconscious, the process of death and rebirth, as well as our eternal source of life. And I think because Virgo is often teased for being exacting and intense, we miss some of the deeper symbolism and archetypal importance of this time of year and the energetics of working with it. So we're going to get into it today, do Virgo some justice, and also I think have a lot of fun setting ourselves up for a meaningful and potent season ahead. So let's get into it. Virgo season generally happens August 22nd to September 22nd. It is the mutable energy of Earth. So we are bridging out of the fixed sign of fire Leo and into the next season when we hit into Libra, the cardinal energy that heralds the equinox and the shift into a new season, autumn here in the northern hemisphere and spring in the southern hemisphere. And some of the main themes that I'm noticing for this particular Virgo season are these. Number one, the job is on the inside. As much as we're going to want to make it about everything else outside of ourselves and maybe try to rush around and get everything done and get a handle on all the elements that we are working with in our lives, this Virgo season is going to direct us back to the inside mechanics of how we are speaking to ourselves and working with ourselves time and time again as the way through which we move forward. Integrity. And if there's one book I would recommend on this topic, it is Martha Beck's The Way of Integrity. It is a great read. It will make you feel so cozy, so connected, and a really great, fun, approachable exploration of this concept of integrity, of being whole in ourselves, of feeling like we are home within ourselves and not shattered into a lot of different identities. Reclaiming our power and energy from the inside out. So we often will give away our sense of empowerment, our sense of value to circumstances and people around us. I know there's a lot of sensitives out here watching who like to make sure others are comfortable and will often give their own sense of safety and empowerment away to others in an attempt to keep everybody safe and to keep themselves safe. So this is going to be about reclaiming and calling back our energy to ourselves so that we feel that wholeness. This is also going to be a season of deeper truth seeking, where we are looking a little bit underneath the surface of the mechanics of maybe a circumstance that's going on and really looking for the more mystic wisdom waiting for us there and just playing with that practice a little bit more. And finally, one of my favorite topics, creating a sense of security from within. And once again, it's going to keep being about how is our inner landscape looking. Are we giving ourselves enough space to make sure that we feel empowered from the inside out, that we are nourishing a sense of security from the inside, and that we aren't just beholden to external circumstances all the time to give us a sense of worthiness and safety. So it's deep stuff here. And like I said, this is an initiating energy. It is, Virgo is connected to the Hermit card in Tarot. And that is an energy of somebody who, the lantern, the guide, the wise one that walks us through the doorway into a greater and deeper understanding. And that is exactly what this season is all about. And I just wanted to say, we're gonna talk about the stereotypes of Virgo, then we're gonna really get into some of the bigger themes, and then I'm going to go through the transits that I'm noticing for this particular Virgo season, and then we're going to pull some cards to finish out for each week of this upcoming season. So just an FYI on the map ahead as we move through this. Okay, so I just want to do some myth busting here. Stereotypes of Virgo, as usual, it's fun to have some jokes and some memes. Not saying we should stop, but, Virgos are often stereotyped as exacting, judgmental, perfectionistic, neurotic, controlling, thinks they're the only perfect one and everybody else is basically a failure that doesn't know how to get it done, but also is very secretly naughty and devious, a little taboo, when they're not putting on their public persona, right? And I'll admit, when I see a project being done, my husband's working on something, I'll be like, excuse me, take that. I'm going to do this because I know how to do this. I'll admit, sometimes the stereotypes might feel a little too close to home. But here's the thing. Virgo is really about this sense of wholeness, this sense of the ability to do the work of experiencing spiritual world through the physical body. It's about being able to be tied to both the celestial realm as well as the physical realm. It's the pathway through which we experience these things simultaneously. And it's, like I mentioned before, the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious. This is a very brilliant energy that can kind of help us use our analytical mind to actually understand our spiritual purpose here in the world. And to make meaning out of the process of creating and being in the world. And its archetypes are going to be the goddess and the hermit. Both of these are wisdom seekers that take us on a journey through the underworld and into the light. And this is about the renewed vision of doing that. When we are brave enough to face our full self, including our shadow and including our unconscious and including the parts of ourselves that we are intimidated by, we actually come into a greater awareness of our whole self. And there is a sense of focus and determination with this. And a deeper curiosity. I think in general, Virgo energy doesn't really find interest in superficial BS and wants to get to the heart of the thing and do it and be there with it and not be dilly-dallying around, which sometimes can come off as very intense, but is also, I think, just this deep devotion to the practice and the process of really harnessing the power of our minds and our hearts and our bodies to be here experiencing things at a deeper level. And what's so funny to me about Virgo energy is that when it's really being activated in a healthy way, the letting go of the exacting perfectionism is actually when we access the truest layer of Virgo energy, which is a lot about allowing ourselves to be perfect in the moment that we are in now. So it's also, I think, a journey when you're working with Virgo energy as somebody with Virgo energy, or it's just something that you're working with. We may start off feeling like, well, I know how to get this done. I'm going to be exacting and I'm going to really show up and put my all in it. And then it's learning that in letting go of some of that tension and letting ourselves be where we are in the process, we actually get access to something deeper and truer. So that is part of the evolution of working with Virgo energy and part of the surprise ending that I think comes every time we work with this energy. And like I said, this is an initiator energy. So it's about initiating something inside of us, igniting a spark and understanding that allows us to access the next level of our journey that we were not quite ready for yet. So it also helps to prepare us with the tools that we need in order to move forward into the next stages of our lives, wherever we are in the world. And that is going to be something that shows up time and again this Virgo season. So what are some of the things that are going on for Virgo season 2022? This is, there's very focused transits happening at this time. This Virgo season, and it has been true for actually several years now, there's a lot of outer planets in retrograde. Pretty much everybody's in retrograde, which just means we are integrating and understanding ourselves at a deeper level. And this Virgo season is going to start off right away with Uranus retrograde in Taurus beginning its retrograde that will last until January 22nd in the new year. And for me, I really love Uranus retrograde because it allows us to catch up with how we are changing and growing. You know, you think about the archetype of the innovator, the rebel of Uranus. If we're, moving energy around, getting everything, toppling this over here, opening this over here, spreading the pieces of the puzzle around over here, we can't keep up that pace forever. It can't all be the externalized part of that, right? So there has to be a point at which we are allowed to put those pieces together from the inside. And that is exactly what Uranus retrograde in Taurus in this section of the year, the last part of 2022, is going to allow us to do. It is going to allow us to understand some of what has felt chaotic or overwhelming or somewhat sloppy and all over the place so that we can feel a little bit more like we're in touch with what the meaning of some of what we're moving through is. So I'm actually very excited for the sense of that integration time. This month also, we are coming back around once again, as always, because this happens 3 to 4 times every year. Mercury is going to enter Libra on August 25th. And then a few weeks later, we are going to have Mercury retrograde beginning in Libra on September 9th. So another retrograde to add to all the other planets in retrograde at this time. It's not everybody, but a lot of planets are retrograde at this time. This Mercury retrograde is going to be mostly in Libra. It's going to retrograde a little bit back into Virgo as well near the end. And this is going to be about integrating our people-pleasing, our shattering of self, to try and get everybody to like us or to get approval. It is going to help us heal and deepen relationships that maybe need deeper communication. Because this is Libran energy for this Mercury retrograde, it's going to be a lot about how we relate, how in the healthy patterns that we have in all our relating and the unhealthy patterns, the places where we feel codependent, where we feel like we give ourselves away or give our power away. And this can be a really, really great transit to just take a moment and breathe. And once again, for me, Mercury retrogrades are about getting out of linear time, getting out of the nice, tidy ABC process of something and letting go of that a little bit and getting more curious about circular time and the spiral that happens as we move and integrate new knowledge and how that changes how we show up in relationships. Does it mean that we set different boundaries? Does it mean that we try a little less when it comes to trying to make people be impressed by us or love us or like us? Maybe it means that we get vulnerable and show a little bit more in certain places. So all of us are going to have different reflections we're going to be doing there, but I would urge you, if you are feeling a bit overwhelmed by a Mercury retrograde in Libra and a relation sign with relationships involved there, to just remember that this is about integration and deeper understanding rather than drama. So that will happen a little later, but just an FYI that Mercury retrograde is going to start this Virgo season. We also have a new moon in Virgo early on in the season. There's a video out about that new moon in Virgo if you're interested, but this new moon is going to be squaring Mars, and it is going to be challenging us to look at where we are upholding the status quo in an effort to keep control and keep things the same so that we don't feel afraid, or if we are trying to people please or wear a costume and we are scared of showing a new aspect of ourselves or making a change, this new moon is going to help us walk through those fears and worries and understand ourselves more clearly so that we know what tools we need to move forward in the next chapter of the journey. I'm very excited about this new moon in Virgo. I think it's going to be beautiful, so powerful. We just covered Mercury going retrograde in Libra on September 9th. We also have Venus going to Virgo on September 4th. Venus in Virgo a lot of times gets kind of put in this position of being about the way we practically love and being a little bit more frugal. But for me, Venus entering Virgo is also going to be about the authenticity of connection. It's going to be about, it's not about the external displays, the fancy dates, the way we show off to get somebody to think we're attractive or to pull our partner in. It is going to be about how we love when all of the show is off. And how we do that even with, and especially when we are alone with ourselves. So I love that. And I think it's something that is always nice to come back to and just, enjoy loving on ourselves and figuring out what our relationship is in that department. So that will be a theme coming up for a good chunk of Virgo season this year. September 10th, we have our full moon in Pisces. And this full moon is going to be quite close to Neptune. It's going to be a little bit challenged by Mars. And this is going to be about dissolving dreams, or maybe nightmares, or maybe your haunted houses that are not serving us anymore. So if we have dreams, we have fantasies, including ones that maybe have meant a lot to our hearts that we have been trying to pull ourselves towards, but has started to feel out of alignment. And the painful, hurtful illusions that we put ourselves through over and over again. This is going to be a great full moon for letting those dissolve and release. And I'm very excited about it. I'm a huge fan of Piscean energy. I love getting into that expanded vision. It is a happy place for me, and I'm very intrigued. We will be talking about that Pisces full moon in much deeper depth in the coming weeks once we get a little closer, so come back for that. And that's kind of our last big moment in this Virgo season. The second, the last 12 days of Virgo season, we're going to be really working at the Mercury retrograde, the Uranus retrograde, integrating what we have learned from these moon cycle, because it's a really potent moon cycle. It's getting very real about where we are holding ourselves in position, both in our real world and in our dream world, and getting us prepared with the information we need to move into the next part of this year. So use this time, let yourself receive the information. It's like learning a new language when we are learning how to be the next version of ourselves. We are learning how to come more fully home to ourselves. We aren't going to learn the language overnight, so we need to be open to just receiving little bits of wisdom as we move through, and that is going to be such a huge part of this Virgo season. Let's pull some cards. I'm going to pull 4 cards. This will kind of go over very gently over the 4-ish weeks that we are working with Virgo energy. It's a little more than 4 weeks, but I find this is the easiest strategy I have for kind of pulling those intuitive messages. 6 of Swords. Oh, I love this card so much. There's a piece to 6 of Swords that I really like. The piece of change, the piece and acceptance of something that maybe has felt really like it took a while for us to understand or come to terms with, and then the release of being at peace with it. 2 of Pentacles. There's that divided self. So this is a really interesting card to have come up in Virgo season when it is about coming home to the integral self. 7 of Pentacles, review. And that is a big theme this month. Reviewing what we are keeping on our vision board, reviewing where we are keeping ourselves, and if we want to keep doing it. High Priestess. Oh, yes. Oh, the wisdom here. The wisdom here. So much of this is about the internal landscape. Pretty much all of these energies are redirects to what is going on inside, which, you know me, this is where we end up every time anyway. But sometimes you just get messages where it's like, oh, okay, there's really something getting integrated, alchemized inside at this time. And it's important we're listening and paying attention to that. So right away, with the beginning of Virgo season, as we get in there and we work with that new moon in Virgo, and as we get used to the Uranus retrograde in Taurus, right, that first week of Virgo season, there is this important thing that is being asked to happen here, which is to grieve anything that maybe has passed away. Integrate how we have changed, right? So the first 8 months of this year have been pretty powerful. A lot has transpired, and probably most of us have changed in ways we probably didn't even see coming in January of this year. So the Six of Swords is really a reminder that it's important to take a moment sometimes to honor how we have grown and changed in both ways, both in what maybe we have lost and also in what we have learned, the wisdom we have gained that we are now taking with us into a somewhat unknown shore. It's very important to remember the skills we have gained, because many of the skills we have gained have been gained very slowly and quietly over time. And we don't even realize how much we have built a skill, built a way of seeing. So it's important to take a moment to do that as we enter into this Virgo season. Now, as we get into September, we've got this Two of Pentacles. And for me, this is a central tenet of any time we are working with Virgo energy. The Two of Pentacles is kind of somebody who is trying to wear all the hats. In many decks, this character will be standing in front of water that's really wavy like this. And it's that kind of representing, there's all these elements in our lives, right? There's a lot of context to our lives and circumstance, and that's a real and valid thing. I always want to say that, circumstances really do affect us, and we're not here to kind of say, oh, it doesn't matter, just think positive and suddenly your circumstances will change. Circumstances affect us deeply. They affect our mental and our physical health, and therefore our ability to access our hidden world or not. And that's a crucial thing. Two of Pentacles, though, is going to say if there are places where you are trying to wear every hat, you are trying to juggle every character, every responsibility, and it is starting to break you into pieces where you are feeling numb, you are feeling emptied out, you are feeling like you can't feel joy or sadness anymore, you just are kind of in robot mode, or you are just pushing forward. The Two of Pentacles is going to ask you why you are trying to maintain all of these things at once. And there is a wisdom here that's, I think, kind of scary. I'll admit this. I have a very hard time letting go of projects and things. I feel like I need to keep doing them. But sometimes it's that important moment of really saying, yeah, I want to start letting this project, this identity, this routine come to an end. And it's going to be an acknowledgement of that so that you can come home and you can reclaim your energy for what you're really meant to do. But it is scary and it is vulnerable. And it does mean like saying some truths to ourselves that sometimes can feel a little intimidating to do. So there's one moment of review, right? And then we have another moment of review with the Seven of Pentacles. Once again, like I mentioned, we have a lot of retrograde action coming in. The outer planets are retrograde at this point, and Mercury's joining the party here as we move into the second half of Virgo season. And what that really means is we are taking a long look at the materials we have now. What seeds have we sown? What root systems do we have? What fruits do we actually want to pick? Where do we want to put our labor next? It's a really important time of calibration and assessment. And I mean, this is vulnerable to be that honest with ourselves and to really let ourselves be honest. And one of the best ways I've found to work with Seven of Pentacles energy, it's not so much about thinking about who we're going to call and make announcements to the next morning as soon as we've been honest with ourselves, or as soon as we've decided we need to change, we need to make it a certain way. It's just to give ourselves enough space to say, I don't have to worry about telling anybody any of this. I don't have to worry about how I'm going to make it happen so that I have the shifts that I want to have. I'm just going to give myself the space to see, write it out, imagine it, without the pressure to follow through necessarily. See what comes of it. See what honesty comes of it. And that's one of the best ways to do it. But with Two of Pentacles and Seven of Pentacles, this is a season of really, truly looking at some of the ways we've committed our energy that isn't feeling so great anymore. Because we change. We all change. We're supposed to change. We are supposed to explore different parts of ourselves throughout life. So this is a time of that. Now, at the end of all of this, as we come to the end of Virgo season, we have the High Priestess, which I think is really interesting. You know, she is also the initiator. She is the initiator of the more watery hidden wisdom. And Virgo is also an initiator of more of the earthbound process of becoming celestial. But regardless, these are both about walking through a doorway. These are both about holding ceremony and ritual as we walk through one way of being into another, into a form of rebirth. Now, the High Priestess is going to be about our connection to spirit and our eternal safety within that. And that's part of what goes back to that theme I was talking about with creating a sense of safety from the inside, a sense of owning our power from the inside. The High Priestess is going to remind us of that. She is also going to welcome us to walk through this door knowing we're going to be okay, even if we are changing and even if we don't know what that next horizon looks like completely. We will be given the information and tools that we need as we move along on the journey, and no sooner, no later, and no sooner. So practicing into the wisdom of the present moment is a big part of the High Priestess's gift to us. And once again, I think she's part of the hidden world. So this is about integrating and welcoming in the hidden world into our conscious lives and into our physical beings so that we can move from there more. So it's a deeply spiritual Virgo season. And Virgo season is always going to be spiritual. It's a very spiritual sign about how we devote our energy and time and how we show up to this life in the modality of spiritual knowledge and seeking. So it's always going to bring us to those deeper places, but sometimes there are just seasons that really are about the initiation, and this is one of those. So if you're going through a season of big change inside, outside, both, probably both, know that this season is here to serve you and work with you and initiate you in ways that will really give you the tools, wisdom, and knowing to take you forward. So ride on that knowing that that's the case and trust yourself. Trust yourself and practice into that trust of self more and more and more. We are going to be diving deep on like every single aspect that I just touched on here in this chat over on my Patreon. And we're going to be doing our live calls in the Magic Maker Circle where we chat about different archetypes, astrology, tarot, ideas. We have a book club. So if you're looking for more community, I would love to see you on my Patreon. You can also find me on my Instagram where I am over there sharing different aspects of my life and my email as well. So I'll leave all the links so you know where to find me. I'd love it if you stuck around. We have more moons, more deep diving ahead, and I'm really excited to see where this Virgo season takes us. I love you all so much. Thank you for being here. It means the world to me. The people who have stuck with me through these years, as I have changed and as I have had to kind of come home to myself through the work I do here and who have stayed with me and been so beautiful, it just means the world to me. So thank you so much. I'll see you in our next discussion.